Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear students. This is our fifth lectures, and inshallah, we are going to have two successive lectures about John Milton's Paradise Lost. If you still remember, we have already started this topic about Milton's Paradise Lost, two lectures before. And today, inshallah, we are going to continue the other two lectures. In the first lecture, we explained something about Milton's life, his education, his marriage, his attitude towards women and marriage. Also, you got an explanation and overview of the plot of Paradise Lost. Today, inshallah, we are going to have two more lectures. We will start with this lecture, which is lecture number 5, about also Paradise Lost, John Milton. Today we are going to speak about some of the themes in this poem, and inshallah next lectures, which will be our fourth lecture about this topic in particular, about Milton's Paradise Lost. We will speak about, inshallah, some important quotations from this poem. And not only this, we are going also to end with an important part, of course, which you always wait for, which is some samples of the questions that you are going to have in the final exam. So let's start now with this lecture. This is the fifth lecture, but it is lecture number 3 about this topic, which is Paradise Lost. Okay, so now we need to speak about the themes, the motives, the symbols. And as you can see, we start with the first point, which is the themes. Now, themes, as it is written in front of you, are fundamental and often universal ideas explored in a literary work. Of course, I mean by the themes here, the themes that you can find in Paradise Lost. So you need to pay attention to these themes. So you might have a question about one of the themes in Paradise Lost is so and so. Okay, so let's start with the first theme, which is the importance of obedience to God. The first words of Paradise Lost state that the poem's main theme, so the main theme of the poem, will be man's first disobedience. And of course, you know, the word disobedience is the opposite of the word obedience. So it's man's first disobedience, and of course, what we mean by this is the disobedience of Eve and Adam, as you know from the summary that we already covered last time. So the first words of Paradise Lost state that the poem's main theme will be man's first disobedience. Milton narrates the story of Adam and Eve's disobedience, explains how and why it happens, and places the story within the larger context of Satan's rebellion and Jesus' resurrection. And of course, as we mentioned last time, this part in particular about the Son, about Jesus' resurrection, of course, definitely we do not as Muslim agree with this, and definitely we are just displaying the concepts and the ideas of John Milton's. Okay, let's now move to the next slide. We have Raphael tells Adam about Satan's disobedience in an effort to give him a firm grasp of the threat that Satan and humankind's disobedience poses. In essence, Paradise Lost presents two moral paths that one can take after disobedience: the downward spiral of increasing sin and degradation represented by Satan, and the road to redemption represented by Adam and by Eve. While Adam and Eve are the first humans to disobey God, Satan is the first of all God's creation to disobey. So Adam and Eve are the first humans, of course human beings, to disobey God. But the first one of all the creations of God's creation to disobey God is Satan. His decision to rebel, the decision of Satan to rebel, comes only from himself. He only decided to disobey God. He was not persuaded or provoked by others. No one else, of course, persuaded him to disobey God. Also, his decision to continue to disobey God after his fall into hell ensures that God will not forgive him, which means that he does not have any thing, but he is not, of course, forgiven and will not be forgiven by God. Okay. Adam and Eve, on the other hand, decide to repent for the sins and seek forgiveness. So after committing this disobedience and after committing this fault, of course Adam and Eve, they decide to repent for the sins they did already, and they seek forgiveness from God. Unlike Satan, Adam and Eve understand that their disobedience to God will be corrected through generations of toil on earth. So they discovered, Adam and Eve, they discovered that Allah will forgive them, but of course Satan never thought of this. And this is the first theme in Paradise Lost, which is the theme of disobedience. Now, in front of you, you have, this is the second theme in Paradise Lost, which is the hierarchical nature of the universe. Paradise Lost is about hierarchy as much as it is about obedience. The layout of the universe, the arrangement of the structure of the universe, with it starts with heaven above, and then below we have hell. So heaven above, and then we have hell below, and in the middle we have earth. So this is the structure that Milton imagined, that above we have paradise, and below we have hell, and in the middle we have earth. Presents the universe as a hierarchy based on proximity to God and His grace. This spatial hierarchy leads to a social hierarchy of angels, humans, animals, and devils. The sun is closest to God, and even for the division of the angels and of the animals and of the devils, even they are also arranged depending on these divisions that I have just mentioned before. So humans and animals and devils, the sun is closest to God, with archangels and cherubs behind him. So we have the sun closest to God, and again we object the use of the word sun to God, because we know this is, of course, completely opposing to our beliefs in Islam. Definitely we believe that Allah is the only one. He has no son. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. So definitely we do not agree with what's written here, but definitely we are just displaying what is here written in that point. So this spatial hierarchy leads to a social hierarchy of angels, of humans, animals, and devils. The Son is closest to God, with archangels and cherubs behind him. So the Son, and then you have after after the Son, you have the archangels and you have the cherubs. Adam and Eve and Earth's animals come next. After this, we have Eve and Adam, and Earth's animals come next. And then later, at the end, we have Satan and the other fallen angels following lust. To obey God is to respect his hierarchy. So in order to obey God, we have to respect his hierarchy. Okay, Satan refused. He refuses to honor the Son as his superior, thereby questioning God's hierarchy. So he refuses to honor the Son as the superior of him, which means that he is objecting the will of God. As the angels in Satan's camp rebel, they hope to beat God and thereby dissolve what they believe to be an unfair hierarchy in heaven. When the Son and the God angels defeat the rebel angels, the rebels are punished by being banished far away from heaven. At last, Satan argues later they can make their own hierarchy in hell, but they are nevertheless subject to God's overall hierarchy, in which they are ranked the lowest. Satan continues to disobey God and his hierarchy as he seeks to corrupt mankind. And of course, this is the main aim and this is the main purpose of Satan, is to corrupt us as mankind, to corrupt human beings in order to disobey God, in order to have many of us in hell the same as him. Okay, let's move to the next one, please. Likewise, humankind's disobedience is a corruption of God's hierarchy. So the same, if we disobey God, it means that this is also, it means that we are doing the same as Satan. It means that we are corrupting God's hierarchy. Before the fall of Adam and Eve, treat the visiting angels with proper respect. Before the fall, Adam and Eve, they treat the visiting angels with proper respect and acknowledgement of their closeness to God. So Adam and Eve, before they fall from the heaven, of course, they treated those angels, they treated them with respect and acknowledgement because of this closeness to God. And Eve impresses the subservient role allotted to her in her marriage. Of course, as you know, that for Milton, he believes that a woman has a subservient and inferior role to her husband. So he believes that before that fall, Eve was doing and was performing her role as a subservient wife to Adam. She was doing it perfectly before the fall. God and Raphael both construct Adam that Eve is slightly farther removed from God's grace. Is farther removed from God's grace than Adam because she was created to serve both God and him. When Eve persuades Adam to let her work alone, she challenges him. her superior, and he yields to her his inferior. Of course, you know that it's a kind of, we can call it's kind of a battle. It's kind of a battle for who is to be the superior and who is to be the inferior here. And Milton here considers that when Eve does not accept to work with Adam and convinces him that he should work in order to achieve more work, in a case like this, for him, he believes that she challenges her superior. Of course, by superior here, of course, he means her husband Adam, and he yields to her, he accepts, and he was convinced by what she said, by his inferior, I mean, of course, his wife. Again, and as Adam eats from the fruit, he knowingly defies God by obeying Eve. Again, by obeying Eve and eating from the fruit of the tree of knowledge, Adam here, of course, he defies God, and he did not listen to the advice sent to him, and his inner instinct instead of God and his reason, which means that he only obeyed his inner instinct instead of God and his reason. Then we move to, after finishing the most two important themes in that play, we move to another point, which is the motives. The motives are recurring structures, contrasts, and literary devices that can help to develop and inform the text major theme. So it's some sort like an aid to explain more the theme in the poem. Well, one of the motives is what we call light and dark. Opposites abound in Paradise Lost, including heaven and hell, God and Satan, and good and evil. Milton uses imagery. He uses imagery of light and darkness to express all of these opposites. In order to express the opposites in the poem, he uses that imagery of light and darkness. Angels are physically described in terms of light. So in terms of light, of course, he described angels, whereas devils are generally described by their shadow darkness. So in order to show that contrast, he displayed and he showed angels as light, and for the devils he showed them as shadow darkness. Okay, now next one. Milton also uses light. Why? To symbolize God and God's grace. So in order to symbolize God and God's praise, he uses light. In his invocation in Book 3, Milton asks that he be filled with this light so he can tell his divine story accurately and persuasively. While the absence of light in hell and in Satan himself represents the absence of God and his grace. So because he always presents God and presents his grace as light, and on the other hand presents Satan as shadow darkness, it means that this presence and this presence of God, which is complete light, and his grace, if it is not existing in Satan, so Satan means that he should be presented as darkness, because he does not have this grace of Allah, that spirit of light, that light that Allah, that God here has. Okay. Now another motive here is the geography of the universe. Milton divides the universe into 4 major regions: So we have that division for Milton. He divides the universe into 4 major regions. What are these 4 major regions? We have glorious heaven, we have dreadful hell, we have confusing chaos, and a young and vulnerable earth in between. So these are the 4 major regions, which are, let me repeat them again. They are glorious heaven, and dreadful hell, of course, hell and heaven. And then we have, as a 3rd region, we have confusing chaos. And the last one, and a young and vulnerable earth in between. The opening scenes that take place in hell, the opening scene, the scenes that take place in hell give the reader immediate context as to Satan's plot against God and humankind. The intermediate scene in heaven, so again, the opening scene at the very beginning that take place in hell, give the reader immediate context as to Satan's plot, to what he was thinking of and plotting, his plan, his evil plan against God and humankind. The intermediate scene in heavens, in which God tells the angels of his plans, provide a philosophical and theological context for this story. So this division, this geography of the universe give or provide a philosophical and theological context for the story. Okay, then with these established settings of God and evil, light and dark, much of the action occurs in between on earth. The powers of God, the powers of good and evil, work against each other on this new battlefield of earth. Satan fights God by tempting Adam. Satan fights God by tempting who? By tempting Adam and Eve. So you have to bear in mind that Satan all the time is fighting God by corrupting his human kind or human beings. So Satan fights God. We shouldn't, of course, let him do this. We shouldn't be like tools in the hands of Satan to give him the chance to fight God using us as tools. So Satan fights God by tempting Adam and Eve, while God shows his love and mercy through the son's punishment of Adam and Eve, which means that God did not punish Adam and Eve severely, but just he sent them, he shows his mercy and love to him through the son's punishment of Adam and fall and Eve, which means, of course, we mean by this their fall from heaven. Okay, we move now to another point, which is the symbol. So until now we covered two important points. The first one is the themes, and the second one is the motives. And then now we move to another point, another important point, which is the symbols. Okay, so what are the symbols that are being used here by Milton in Paradise Lost, and what's their indications? What do they indicate for, or what do they stand for? So symbols are objects, characters, figures, and colors used to represent abstract ideas or concepts. Let me repeat this again. Symbols are objects, characters, figures, so it can be objects, any kind of objects. It can be character, can be figure, or even colors, used to represent abstract ideas or concepts. Okay, so they use any of these elements or any of these things to have them as symbols in his poem. The first one, the first symbol, and that is the scales in the sky. Of course, you know the scales. What's meant by the scales? The scales in the sky. As Satan prepares to fight Gabriel when he is discovered in paradise, as Satan prepares to fight Gabriel when he is discovered in paradise, of course you remember what happened. God causes the image of a pair of golden scales to appear in the sky. During that battle between Gabriel and Satan, God causes the image of a pair of golden scales to appear in the sky. On one side of the scales, of course you know that the scale has two sides. So on one side of the scales, he puts the consequences of Satan's running away. And on the other hand, in the other, he puts the consequences of Satan's staying and fighting with Gabriel. So on the two scales, the consequences of Satan's running away, and the other one, if Satan stays and fights with Gabriel. In both, he showed them the consequences that might happen in the two options or in the two choices. The side that chose him staying and fighting, the side that chose him staying and fighting flies up. Staying and fighting flies up, signifying its lightness and worthlessness. These scales symbolize the fact that God and Satan are not truly on opposite sides of a struggle. So these scales which we can find in the play, they symbolize the fact that God and Satan are not truly on opposite sides of a struggle. God is all powerful. God is all powerful of their power from him. So it is not a case of equality between God and Satan, of course. Again, God is all powerful, and Satan and Gabriel both derive all of their power from him. God's scales force Satan to realize the futility of taking arms against one of God's angels again. So when Satan saw that symbol, he was convinced that what he is doing is useless and is futile at the same time, and it would not give him any benefit. Why? Because definitely he cannot compete God. He is not equal to God. So God's scales force Satan, to realize the futility of taking arms against one of God's angels again. Now let's move to the next one. Another symbol is Adam's wreath. The wreath that Adam makes as he and Eve work separately, yes, is symbolic in several ways. So this is symbolic in several ways. This wreath is symbolic in several ways. First, it represents his love for her and his attraction to her. So he tries to expresses his love and his attraction to her. But as he is about to give the wreath, when he already had it and he wants to offer it to Eve, it represents his love for her and his attraction to her. But as he is about to give the wreath to her, his shock in noticing that she has eaten from the tree of knowledge makes him drop it to the ground. So once he saw Eve objecting and not obeying his opinion and eating from his order, and the order of God, and ate from the tree of knowledge, definitely this made him drop it to the ground. His wreath, the wreath dropped to the ground as a kind of dissatisfaction and as a kind of rejection and not accepting of what she did. His dropping of the wreath symbolizes that his love and attraction to Eve is falling away, and this is actually is important, because this dropping of wreath on the ground, it symbolizes that his love and his attraction to Eve is falling away, which means that it is not as it was and before it happened, right? So his image of her as a spiritual companion, his love for her, his image of her as a spiritual companion, has been shattered completely. Now that image that she is his spiritual companion, his spiritual partner, this image now shattered, damaged and fragmented and shattered completely as he realizes her fallen state. The fallen wreath represents the loss of pure love, and this is very important, that his dropping of the wreath means that he lost his pure love to her. Okay. Now this is what we already have about this. So if we revise the last point about the symbols, we have again these symbols. Remember that we have two symbols here, which are the scales in the skies, and how it shows that God and Satan are not equal, and that of course once Satan sees this, of course he discovers and he knows quite well that he is not that equal to God. And of course the second point that we also you have to pay attention to is, or the second symbol is Adam's wreath, and that falling of the wreath when he discovered that Eve of course ate from the tree of knowledge, and this representing, as it is said here, that his dropping of the wreath symbolizes that his love and attraction to Eve is falling away. His image of her as a spiritual companion has been shattered completely, and he realizes her, of course, fallen state, and which means it was the loss and the end of his pure love to her. Okay, now let's very quickly go back to what we have said from the very beginning. We started with covering these three items that you have in front of you. We started with the themes, and then we moved to the motives, and then we ended with the symbols. Let me revise with you the headings very quickly. When we spoke about the theme, we spoke about the first important theme is the importance of disobedience to God. And then after this, we moved to the hierarchical nature of the universe. And of course, we mean by this layout of the universe, starting with heaven above, hell below, and earth in the middle. And then we move to the motives, and in the motives we covered already that point about light and dark, and of course, you know, who is representing light. Of course, the presenting light are the angels and God, and also, of course, you know, who represents dark and darkness. I mean, of course, this shadow darkness is represented by Satan and of course his rebels. And then another important motive is the geography of the universe, and how Milton divides the universe into four major regions: the glorious, as we mentioned, glorious heaven, dreadful hell, confusing chaos, and a young as vulnerable earth in between. And then we ended our lecture with the symbols that we already covered here, and the two important symbols that we need to bear in mind and to have are the scales in the sky, as we have just mentioned, and we ended with Adam's wreath, and how this symbolizes the loss of his pure love to Eve, as she did not obey God and listen to temptation of Satan. And of course, you know, in the previous lecture, how Satan convinced her to eat from the tree, and praising her beauty and asking her to eat from the tree of knowledge, and unfortunately she listened to his temptation, and she ate from the tree of knowledge. And not only this, also when Adam saw this, he did the same as her. So that drop of leaf, it represents the loss of pure love. Okay, now we have already finished that lecture. Inshallah, we will have one more lecture and one last lecture about Paradise Lost, and inshallah see you inshallah in the coming lecture. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Thank you very much.